Tropical Storm Beryl, whatever you want to call it, is making its way into the Great Lakes region tomorrow. The time is 12:08 p.m. and it is July 8th. Welcome to another update from Great Lakes weather. Hopefully y'all are doing well today, especially y'all down south. Again, you're dealing with that tropical storm, which was formerly a hurricane as it made its way into the Houston metro, but now it is a tropical storm with still packing winds of 65 to 70 miles per hour. The expectation is that this system will eventually make its way into the Great Lakes region, and that is likely going to begin tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow evening. Let's get a look at the HRRR output based on the 12Z run. And you can see that as it moves to the northeast, you can see there's a tornado warning down there right now, but as this thing continues to move to the northeast, it's going to continue to bring with it its warm, moist air on the right side and then some cooler, drier air on the back side. But again, it will have some wind fields associated with it that could also lead to some severe weather in some places, including tornadoes. But I don't think it's going to reach Michigan with regards to that setup. But again, the models have been shifting this thing further west. We'll talk about the possible scenarios that could play out with this. But as we get to around 10 a.m., you could see that the initial convection associated with Tropical Storm Beryl, which will eventually be post-Tropical Depression Beryl, will make its way into portions of Indiana. Now, you do see that there are some new storms that do initiate across portions of southern Indiana and then also across portions of southern Michigan. Now, these storms, especially down here in southern Indiana, might be a little bit windy. I will say that. Now, and there also could be some that could eventually become tornadic, okay, especially across portions of southern Indiana. Right now, there's a marginal day 2 risk out for this area associated with this storm that's going to be making its way through. I don't know if they're going to increase that or not, but really the threat with this post-tropical depression that makes its way into the area will be damaging winds and maybe a spin-up tornado or two. Now, that's not to discount the heavy rain threat, okay? The heavy rain threat is actually probably more of the concern with regards to this, especially across portions of northern Indiana, northwest Ohio, and southern Michigan. And as you can see, that plume of moisture is going to surge its way into the Great Lakes region. You'll see that in northwest Ohio, northern Indiana, southern Michigan. You can see that right there. Some places are going to see quite a bit of rain from this. That's all I got to say, okay? And you can see that it will continue to lift its way to the northeast. But again, there are several possible scenarios I want to point out to you here. This is set up for tomorrow at 10 a.m. But let's get a look at the possible track of this, okay? So I'm going to draw a little picture for you, okay? So first of all, the track that is expected for this post-tropical depression to take is this track right here, okay? So it's going to lift off through Indiana, portions of Ohio, into the Ontario area. Now, picture this, okay? This arrow right here kind of depicts where the low is going to be. On the northern side of that low, on the northwest side, you're going to be dealing with the heavy rain. Okay, so that includes, again, northwest Ohio, northern Indiana, southern Michigan, which is currently what's on the table. Areas down to the south will also see rain, but this will be more of a focused corridor for severe weather. Okay, so that is why the track of the low is going to be a big deal with regards to how this thing plays out. Okay, so again, let's refresh this real quick. Now, so that's track number 1. That's the first possible scenario. Second possible scenario, which would be more impactful for the Great Lakes region, is if this setup makes its way across here. Now, the likelihood of this happening is extremely low. Okay, let me say that. But if this does happen, it's looking more of a severe weather potential for portions of much of the Great Lakes region. Now, I don't think that's going to happen. Okay, I think the chance of this setup is very low. Now, the third possible track is that it actually brings more of the heavy rain potential down to southern portions of Indiana, southern Ohio, okay? So again, 3 possible scenarios that could play out here. The severe weather threat would then stay further to the south, okay? So that's the 3 possible tracks with Beryl as it makes its way across the Great Lakes region. I do think likely, though, the blue arrow is likely the one that's going to match up. But keep in mind, as that low moves through, the further west you go of that low, or north and west of that low, you're going to be dealing with a heavy rain threat. The further south and east of that low, you will still get some rain, but there's also potential for some thunderstorms that could become strong, maybe even severe, okay? And that's kind of what we're watching with regards to the post-tropical depression as it makes its way through. So let's take a look at how the SPC is playing this out, okay? So day 1 outlook, you can see that there's a focused corridor of tornado potential across portions of Louisiana up into southern Illinois. That's going to be for today. Tomorrow, you see that they shift that. and is sort of following that similar scenario that was being shown with the blue arrow track that I showed in the previous graphic. Okay, marginal risk area for severe weather, potential for a tornado, and damaging winds possible across portions of southern Indiana, southern Ohio. Latest short-range model guidance has shifted a little bit further west. I wouldn't be surprised to see the marginal be expanded a little bit west a little bit and north across Indiana and Ohio. That's going to be kind of the question at play here. And then it continues to shift off to the northeast, and you got that little narrow marginal risk across the Appalachian Mountain region. So, again, that's how the SBC is playing this out at the current moment. We'll have to see if that changes up to this point. Let's take a look at how the models are playing this out, shall we? So again, as we go forward, this is the 12Z run of the HRRR once again, just kind of showing you what's going on here. So you can see that there's going to be some cells that do try to fire early in the day across portions of Indiana ahead of the post-tropical depression as it makes its way through. Now, if you get a sounding out ahead of this environment here, you see that there is marginal severe potential. Temperatures are going to get pretty high, and it's going to be relatively humid again. You got a lot of pull of warm, moist air associated with Tropical Storm Beryl making its way through. You got that rain on the northern side. You get a sounding out ahead of these cells that are initiating here. There's instability, but again, the stuff up in this region will likely remain elevated. And then you've got some pretty strong cells that begin to emerge on Wednesday across portions of southern Indiana. You get a sounding, marginal tornado potential. Again, doesn't look too excellent, but again, you do have good SRH in the atmosphere. You got a curvature on the hodograph that may show some favorability for severe weather. But again, the HRRR actually does play this out to be a little less impressive than some of the other models have in previous runs as well. So, but the biggest concern I would say with this is the rainfall potential. Let's take a look at that real quick. So again, the blend of models from the National Weather Service actually does downplay it a little bit. You do have about 1 to 3 inches being shown across Indiana, northwest Ohio, southern Michigan once again. But the other model is a little bit more bullish. The ICON model, for example, is playing out rainfall totals of up to 5 inches across a corridor of southern Michigan. GFS kind of follows that corridor but with a little bit less rainfall. And the Euro also plays it a little bit further south, but still that focused corridor of 2 to 5 inches of rainfall possible across portions of Indiana, northwest Ohio, southern Michigan. So if you want a comparison of that to snow, that would be about on a 1 to 10 ratio, 20 to 50 inches of snow. So again, I don't think that's going to be that. Again, that just shows you how much moisture is being pulled up with the system. But again, the other East Euro model that's kind of AI helped generate, you can see that there's still that narrow corridor, but it is focused a little bit to the northwest. So still, again, you can see lots of rain expected. There's likely going to be a little bit of a flooding concern, particularly in low-lying areas could deal with that particular scenario. Here's the NAM model. Again, the NAM's not really the best model to use for this type of thing, but again, you can see that it does play out that strong convection, but it plays it out later in the day and further southwest, typical of the NAM, to play it a little bit further to the west. But the soundings off this one are a little bit more bullish. You got a PDS Tor sounding in northern Kentucky, Cape values of 2,500, low cloud base, good curvature on your hodograph there, strong SRH. Again, is that going to take place? Could be difficult for that to actually occur, but it is also looking like it's going to occur Tuesday night into Wednesday morning, if anything, based on the NAM. So that's just something to keep in mind. Whew, sneezy peasy, allergy season. But again, something to keep in mind with regards to this, that there could be severe weather across this corridor of southern Indiana and southwest Ohio. I am a little bit more interested, though, in the severe weather threat, not this week, but more along the lines of next week. So again, this is the GFS model, kind of showing the instability that will build. Take a look at Sunday as we get into Sunday. You can see that it is playing out instability, really building across the Great Lakes region of Cape values of up to 3,000. This is actually Saturday, but you can see that the instability does show up as pretty strong. And then as we get into Sunday, you can see that it even gets more intense and more focused across portions of Indiana and Ohio. So it looks like there could be several days of potential for thunderstorms. Again, the thing is, you may have instability, but it's not really going to do too much, particularly if there is a cap in the atmosphere, which again, if I get a sounding for Monday and I take a look, I don't really see a capping inversion there, but I do see a very impressive, I actually do see a pretty impressive set up for some decent storms on that Monday. Shown here, Cape values around 6,000. That's a little bit intense for even for portions of Indiana, but just seeing such a good signal up at this point makes me very interested in what is going to happen either Sunday, Monday, or Tuesday of next week. But it looks like there could be some pretty active weather that looks to unfold across portions of the Great Lakes region come early next week. So keeping my eyes close on that, but I'm not going to go into too much detail because there's still a lot to be trimmed down with that particular scenario. But there has been consistent signals by multiple models with regards to this situation, and also the ensembles are in agreement on this as well, that early next week is a time to watch for severe weather. So just something to keep in mind. Not going to go into too much detail about it. For more information, make sure to subscribe and stay updated. Also check out Michigan Storm Chasers. They have been talking about this setup as well. It's a good signal at this current moment, but we're just going to keep our eyes on it. Also, keeping track on Tropical Storm Beryl. Not sure if I'm going to go out and do anything with that because, again, the threat appears to be very far to the south at this current moment in terms of severe weather. And if there's anything with regards to flooding concern, maybe I'll go and check that out. But as of right now, nothing. As of right now, that's pretty much all that is going on in the world of weather. Thanks for watching, everybody, and I will see you all later.